My wife looked me in the eye on Christmas and said, "I want a divorce. I'm moving in with my lover." She smiled, certain she'd won. She didn't know that one phone call would change how that move turned out. The kitchen still smelled like cinnamon and burnt butter. The tree in the living room blinked red and green like it was trying to keep a secret. A cheap plastic Santa hung crooked on the fridge because Mallory said it was funny ironic. I used to laugh at that. Mallory stood with her coat on like she was catching an Uber. Her hair was perfect. Her lipstick was that calm shade she wore to funerals and job interviews. Appropriate, controlled, impossible to read. A duffel bag sat by the back door. Not a suitcase, a duffel bag like she was going to the gym. "You're not even shocked," she said, watching me the way a cat watches a bug in a jar. I had a mug in my hand. It was warm. That was about the only warm thing left in the house. "I'm listening," I said. She rolled her eyes like I was being difficult on purpose. "I'm not doing this all day, Nate. It's Christmas." "Right," I said. "It is." She leaned back against the counter and crossed her arms. Her wedding ring caught the light and flashed. A tiny lighthouse sending a signal to no one. "It's over. I'm done. I want a divorce." The word divorce didn't hit like a punch. It hit like cold water poured down the back of my shirt. A full-body flinch that didn't show on my face. "And you're moving in with—" I didn't say his name yet. I didn't want to give it oxygen. "My lover," she said, like she'd rehearsed it in a mirror. She said it like it was a fact about the weather. "Grant." There it was. Grant Hale. The name she pretended was just a friend when it showed up on her phone at midnight. The name that made her flip her screen down like it was a hot pan. The name that came with a cologne cloud and a smile that never reached his eyes. Mallory tapped her nails on the counter. Tick, tick, tick. It sounded like a clock giving up. "You can't be mad," she said. "We're adults. People fall out of love." "Sure," I said. "People also fall into traffic. Doesn't mean they planned to." Her mouth tightened. She hated my jokes when they weren't for her. She lifted her phone and angled it toward me. The screen showed Grant's face. Too close, too confident, like he lived there already. He had on a fitted sweater that probably cost as much as my winter tires. He was holding a champagne flute because of course he was. "Merry Christmas," Grant said, voice smooth as oil. He didn't look at the camera like he was talking to me. He looked at it like he was doing a speech. I stared at his face on that glass rectangle and felt something inside me click. Not rage, not pain. Something mechanical, like a switch. "Hi," I said. Grant's smile widened. "Nate, appreciate you being mature about this." Mallory watched my reaction like she was waiting for a show. That was the part that hurt the most. Not the affair, not even the divorce. The fact she wanted a performance. She wanted me on my knees. She wanted me to beg in front of a man she'd chosen. I set my mug down gently. Now, if I slammed it, she would win a little, so I didn't. I asked the first question that mattered. "Whose name is on the lease over there?" I said. Mallory blinked. "What? The lease?" I repeated. "Whose name is on it?" Grant chuckled like I'd asked what color his underwear was. "That's not really your business." "It is if my wife is moving into it," I said, "and it's about to become my problem." Mallory huffed. "It's fine. Grant has a place downtown. It's nice." "That wasn't the question," I said, calm and flat. "Whose name is on the lease?" Mallory's eyes flicked to Grant. Just a fraction of a second, just long enough. "Grant's," she said too quickly. I let that sit, a lie that sounded like a lie. I asked the second question. "When exactly are you moving?" I said. "Today," she said. "After breakfast. I already arranged it." I nodded, like she'd told me the time of a dentist appointment. "What time?" Mallory's smile came back, sharp. "Noon, movers, everything." Grant lifted his glass toward the camera. "We'll take good care of her." I said. Mallory stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was doing me a kindness. "I'll take my things. I'll be reasonable. But I'm not staying here another night. I'm done living small." Living small. In the house I'd repaired with my own hands when the roof leaked. In the life I'd built while she collected compliments like coupons. I looked at her ring again, then at the spare key on her keychain, the one that opened the back door, the one she always carried just in case, the one she'd use to come back later when it suited her, when she needed something. She turned slightly to adjust her coat, and in that moment I stepped in close like a husband giving a quick kiss. Instead, my fingers slid the spare key off her ring. A simple movement, like palming a coin. She didn't notice. She was too busy feeling victorious. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Drew. Drew. You okay? Drew was my coworker, not my best friend, not my therapist. Just a guy who'd seen me after staff meetings with my eyes red and my jaw tight, and he'd asked the questions most people didn't. I typed back with my thumb. Me. Need a number? Drew. 4. Me. Property manager. Downtown building. Building ops. Mallory lifted her chin. So we're done? Because I'm leaving. I looked at her for a long moment. Her face was lit by holiday lights and something colder. Certainty. She thought the story ended here. She thought this was her exit scene. I nodded once. Okay. Her eyes narrowed. That's it? That's it, I said. Grant laughed on the screen. Smart man. I picked up my phone and walked into the garage like I was going to get something from the freezer. The air in there was sharp with cold and oil. My breath came out in a ghost. Drew's reply popped in. A contact card. Rita Klein, Building Ops. I stared at the name until the letters felt carved into my eyes. I whispered, Merry Christmas, and hit call. I sat in my car 2 streets over, where the neighbors' inflatable snowmen stared at me like they were judging. Snow had dried into white crust on the windshield corners. The world looked clean, but it wasn't. The call rang twice. This is Rita, a woman's voice said. Not sweet, not harsh. Just tired, like someone who'd spent a decade explaining the same rules to people who thought money made them optional. Hi, I said. Rita Klein? Yes. My name is Nate Mercer, I said. I'm calling about a unit in your downtown building. There's an emergency with our property, and I need to confirm whether my wife is authorized to take possession today. Silence. A pause that was policy-shaped. What unit? She asked. I gave the number Mallory had bragged about 2 weeks ago when she'd been helping a friend move. I'd remembered because she repeated it 3 times like it was a password. Unit 1907, I said. Rita didn't react the way drama wants people to. She didn't gasp. She didn't whisper. She just asked, Who are you listed as on the file? I'm on the deposit addendum, I said, keeping my voice even. Guarantor, insurance writer, whatever you call it. She had me co-sign because the building required proof of coverage. I can email ID if you need. There it was, the boring hook in the boring fish. Months ago, Mallory had asked for my signature on a lease form while I was half asleep on the couch. She'd said, It's for the auto-pay thing. It's nothing. I'd signed because I trusted her. Trust is just a knife you hand someone and then act surprised when you bleed. Rita sighed once, quiet but audible. Hold, please. The line was gone except for music, something slow and jazzy like a lobby trying to pretend it wasn't a lobby. I stared at my steering wheel. My hands didn't shake. My chest did, a little, like a door rattling in wind. I pictured Mallory's smile. I pictured Grant's toast. Behind me, my phone buzzed again. Mallory's name on the screen. I ignored it. A minute later, Rita returned. Mr. Mercer, she said. I can't discuss private lease details with a third party. I understand, I said. I'm not asking for details. I'm asking whether my wife can take possession today. Another pause. Move-ins require an appointment, she said, clipped and practiced. Movers need a certificate of insurance. Key fobs are activated only after signers verify identity. That's standard. Okay, I said. Is there an appointment on file? I'm not able to confirm that. I let a little frustration into my voice. Not much, just enough to sound like a husband dealing with chaos. Rita, my wife is leaving the marital home today. She is moving in with an occupant in your building. If there's any dispute on authorization or access, I'm asking you to place a temporary administrative hold until the primary signer verifies. It's Christmas. I don't want a scene in your loading dock. Rita exhaled again. It wasn't sympathy. It was recognition. Administrative holds are used in situations involving identity verification, she said. Do you have any documentation that you're connected to the file? I can forward the insurance writer confirmation, I said, and my ID, and the email chain from when she asked me to sign, right now. Rita was quiet for a beat. Then, email it to the address I'll text you. My throat tightened. That was the first crack in Mallory's certainty, not because Rita cared about my heartbreak, but because paperwork doesn't care about anyone. I'll send it, I said. After I receive it, Rita said, I'll flag the file for verification. That means no fob changes until the primary signer confirms in person. Thank you. Don't thank me, she said. I'm doing my job. I hung up and immediately pulled over in front of a closed daycare and forwarded what I had. The insurance rider confirmation was in my inbox because I was the one who paid it. The email chain was thin. Mallory's one-line message. Need you to sign this today. But it was enough to show she'd used my name. As soon as I hit send, my car door yanked. Mallory stood there, eyes wild now, smile gone. She'd found me. Of course she had. She knew my habits like she knew my faults. Who are you calling? She snapped. I locked the door with my thumb. Click. It sounded loud. Mallory slapped her palm against the glass. Open the door. I held up my phone. Building operations. Her face went sharp. Why? Because you said you're moving at noon, I said. Because you said his name is on the lease. It is, she said, too loud. In the quiet street, it echoed. You sure? I asked. She leaned down, eyes close to mine through the glass, like she could force me to blink first. You don't get to ruin this for me. I started the car. I didn't peel out like a movie. I backed up slowly, controlled, and Mallory had to step away or get clipped. She stumbled, furious. And I felt a small, ugly satisfaction. My phone chimed, a text from Rita. Rita, hold placed pending verification. Also, please call me back when you can. I hit call again. This is Rita, she answered. I got your text, I said. Mr. Mercer, she said, and there was something new in her voice. Not emotion, surprise. I need to tell you something. Okay. That unit... She hesitated. That unit isn't leased to Grant Hale. The words landed soft and heavy, like a snowplow scraping the street. I stared at the dashboard. What? Rita cleared her throat. I can't give you names, but I can tell you this. The person your wife says she's moving in with is not the primary signer on that lease. My heartbeat stayed steady. My thoughts did not. They started racing, sharp as broken glass. Grant's smile on the phone. His toast. His smart man. I swallowed. So, she can't move in? Rita's tone went colder, more official. With the hold, there will be no access changes until the primary signer appears, and no move-in without appointment and COI. If someone shows up at noon with a truck, they will not be admitted. I looked up and saw Mallory at the end of the street calling someone, pacing, her body stiff with anger. Rita continued, and her next sentence was a door creaking open in a haunted house. And Mr. Mercer, she said, based on what I'm seeing, there's another name connected to this file that you might want to know exists. Who? I asked before I could stop myself. I can't say, Rita replied, but it's not his. I ended the call and sat there, hands on the wheel, as Christmas lights blinked in the distance like warning signals. Then my phone buzzed with a new number I didn't recognize. A text came through. Sienna. Who is this? Why is my building calling me about keys missing and a move-in I didn't approve? I stared at the name, Sienna, and I thought, oh, so that's the real lease. I didn't reply to Sienna right away. It wasn't because I wanted to play games. It was because I knew what happens when you type while your heart is on fire. You send the wrong thing. You sound desperate. You sound vengeful. You give someone an angle they can use to dismiss you. I sat in my car with the heater blasting my shins and watched my breath fog the windshield. The text glowed on my screen like a flare. Sienna. Who is this? Why is my building calling me about keys missing and a move-in I didn't approve? Her question had a clean edge to it. Not hysterical. Not curious for fun. Curious like someone who has been lied to and knows it. Mallory called again. I watched it ring. I watched it stop. Then it rang again. A year ago, I would have picked up just to keep the peace. I would have tried to talk her down. I would have told her we'd work it out. That man thought love was a job you could do harder when the pay got bad. Now I let the phone buzz and gone, and I kept my hands open on my knees like a man who wasn't going to reach for the same poison twice. I opened a fresh note on my phone and typed what I needed to remember, because the mind lies when it's tired. Keep it factual. Don't threaten. Don't insult. Don't beg. Then I wrote back to Sienna. Me. I'm Nate Mercer. Mallory is my wife. She told me today she's moving in with Grant Hale at your building. Building ops placed a verification hold after I asked if she was authorized. I'm sorry you're caught in it. If you need details, I can explain. I stared at it, read it again, and hit send. A minute passed. Then, Sienna. Grant Hale is an approved occupant. I'm the primary signer. Who is Mallory? My stomach clenched, not from surprise anymore, but from the way confirmation feels. Like somebody finally opening the curtain and letting you see the monster is just a man in a suit. Me. My wife. And apparently he told her she could move into his place. Sienna. He told you that? Me? He told her. She told me. He repeated it on a video call this morning. That last line felt like stepping closer to a cliff. But it was the truth. Sienna didn't text back for a while. During that gap, I did the only thing that made sense. I started laying track in case the train jumped it. I called Janice, the attorney a coworker had recommended months ago when I joked about divorce insurance. Janice didn't laugh at that joke. Janice didn't laugh at much. Her voicemail was brisk. I left a message and kept it short. Name, number, situation. Emergency consult. Then I called Drew. He answered on the second ring. You sound like you're holding your breath, he said. I might be, I replied. What happened? Sienna exists, I said. There was a pause. Sienna who? I don't know yet, I said. But she's the name tied to the lease, and she just texted me. Drew made a low sound. So the guy's a liar on multiple fronts. Yeah, I said, and now I'm a random man holding a match near his house. Be careful, Drew said. Don't poke a bear that can sue you. I'm not poking, I replied. I'm documenting. That's when Sienna's next text came in. Sienna. I'm coming to the building. If I see him, I'll handle it. Don't come up to my unit. Don't show up at my door. Keep this clean. Keep this clean. The sentence hit me in a way nothing else had. Because it sounded like the exact opposite of Mallory. It sounded like accountability. Me. Understood. I won't go near your unit. I'll stay public. I put the phone down and sat there for a full minute, listening to the faint tick of my engine cooling. In the distance, someone's Christmas music drifted through a cracked window, bright and wrong. Mallory wanted me to explode. Grant wanted me to disappear. Sienna wanted control. And I wanted one thing, the truth in daylight. So I drove downtown. By noon, the house looked like a stage after the actors left. Wrapping paper in the trash, plates still wet in the sink, a cinnamon candle burning down to nothing. Mallory moved through the living room like she owned the air. She kept talking, like the sound of her voice could rewrite reality. It's happening, she said, dragging a suitcase down the hall. You can't stop it. I'm not stopping anything, I said. I'm verifying. She laughed, sharp. Verify your way into loneliness. Her phone rang. She snatched it up, and her face softened in a way it never softened for me anymore. Hey, babe. Babe. Hearing her say it made my stomach twist. I grabbed my coat and left without another word. Not dramatic, not slamming doors, just leaving. Downtown was a different kind of cold. The buildings held wind like they were hoarding it. The sidewalks were salted and slick. Holiday music floated out of shops like cheap perfume. I parked in a garage near the building and walked in with my hands in my pockets. Just another guy with nowhere fun to be. The lobby was polished stone and fake plants. A long desk sat under a sign that said Resident Services. The woman behind it looked like she'd seen every kind of breakup, every kind of rich tantrum. My name is Nate Mercer, I said. I'm supposed to speak to building ops. Rita's in back, she said without looking up. Have a seat. I sat. I watched the elevator doors open and close. Each ding sounded like a heartbeat. A man walked in wearing a winter coat that probably had its own credit score. Grant Hale. He didn't look around like he was nervous. He looked around like he was checking his kingdom. He spotted me and stopped mid-step. Well, he said, voice low. You really are persistent. I stood. Just careful. Grant smiled and came closer, close enough that I caught his cologne, something expensive and clean that made me think of hotel lobbies and bad decisions. You made calls, he said. I made one, I replied. Grant's eyes narrowed. This isn't going to help you, Nate. Not trying to help me, I said. Trying to help the truth. He laughed quietly. Truth? You want to talk about truth? Here's one. Mallory doesn't want you. I heard it like someone tapping glass with a spoon, a small sound that still makes everyone turn. I took a breath. Whose name is on the lease, Grant? Grant's smile didn't move. Mine. I nodded, like I believed him, and said, Then it'll be easy for you to verify with building ops. A flicker crossed his face, a hairline crack. He stepped closer and lowered his voice. You're embarrassing yourself. I met his eyes. I'm not the one who needs a lease to prove I exist. His jaw tightened. The elevator dinged. Rita stepped out holding a clipboard, hair pulled back, expression set like a woman who doesn't enjoy surprises. Mr. Mercer, she said, and then her eyes landed on Grant. Mr. Hale. Grant's smile returned fast, like a mask snapped into place. Rita. Merry Christmas. Rita's mouth did not smile. It's December 25th, she said. That doesn't change building policy. Grant gave a small laugh, like she'd told a joke. Of course. Rita looked at me. You sent documentation. Thank you. Does the hold stay? I asked. It stays until the primary signer appears, Rita said. Grant's eyes sharpened. I'm right here. Rita's gaze didn't flinch. Then you can go to my office and present identification and sign the verification form. Fine, Grant said, and started to follow her. Rita stopped and looked at him hard. You can't sign for a lease you didn't sign. The lobby went quiet. Even the fake plants looked like they were listening. Grant's smile faltered. Excuse me? Rita didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Mr. Hale, you are listed as an approved occupant. You are not the primary signer. Mallory had said his name was on the lease. Grant had said it. They'd both said it like saying it made it real. Grant's face stayed composed for a full second. Then his eyes snapped to me, and for the first time his confidence looked like it might have bones underneath that could break. This is a misunderstanding, he said. Rita nodded once, like she'd heard that line too. Misunderstandings don't override legal documents. Grant leaned closer, voice tight. Who called you? Rita looked at him like he'd asked who owned Gravity. A tenant connected to the file. That's all you need to know. Grant's gaze pinned me. You think you're clever. No, I said. I think you're sloppy. Grant's lips parted, and for a second I thought he might say something stupid. Instead, he turned and walked toward the garage entrance. I followed. Not because I wanted to fight, because I wanted to watch the lie crack. The garage smelled like concrete and exhaust. Our footsteps echoed. Grant stopped between two parked cars and turned on me. You need to leave, he said. I'm leaving, I replied. I just wanted to see your face when the paperwork shows up. He stepped in close. He wasn't taller than me. He just carried himself like he was, like posture was a weapon. You don't want to do this, he said, voice low. I can make things difficult. I pulled my phone from my pocket and held it up. For my safety, I'm recording, I said clearly. We're in a public garage, cameras everywhere, so choose your words. Grant's eyes flicked toward the security camera on the ceiling. His jaw flexed. You're pathetic, he said, softer now. Maybe, I said. But I'm still here. His mouth tightened into something ugly. You're going to lose her anyway. The words stung because they were true, but truth doesn't always mean victory. Sometimes it just means clarity. Before I could reply, a woman's voice echoed down the ramp. Grant? The voice was sharp enough to slice, not angry yet. Curious, the kind of curiosity that turns dangerous fast. A woman stepped into view at the garage entrance. Dark coat, hair pulled up, a purse held tight in one hand like she was ready to swing it if needed. She looked at Grant, then at me. Grant, she said again, louder. Why is building ops calling me about a lock audit? Why is there a hold on my unit? Grant went still. Rita had said there was another name. I'd seen it on my screen. Sienna. Sienna's eyes moved over Grant's face, reading him like a bill. Grant's voice came out too smooth. Sienna, I can explain. Sienna's gaze snapped to me. Who are you? I didn't answer right away. I didn't want to be the villain in her story, but I wasn't going to be quiet either. I'm Nate, I said. Mallory's husband. Sienna's face changed. It didn't become angry yet. It became cold, like a room losing heat. Mallory, she repeated, testing the name. That's... who? Grant swallowed. It's complicated. Sienna laughed once, short and humorless. It better be, she said. And I watched Grant Hale's perfect Christmas smile begin to collapse. After Sienna appeared in the garage, time did something strange. It sped up and slowed down at the same time, like my brain was trying to process everything by chewing it and choking on it. Grant walked away first, shoulder tight, phone already in his hand. A man like him doesn't retreat. He relocates. He goes somewhere he can still control the temperature of the room. Sienna didn't follow him. She watched him go with a look that felt older than her face. You, she said to me, and the word wasn't an insult. It was a label, a file tab. Me, I said. She stepped closer, enough that I could see the little red lines in her eyes. What's your wife's name again? Mallory Mercer, I said. She's... Not here. Sienna's lips pressed together. She's the one moving in? That's what she believes, I replied. Grant told her it was his place. Sienna let out a slow breath through her nose. He's been telling me a lot of things. I didn't ask what. I didn't need the details. The tone told me it was bad. Rita appeared near the garage entrance, clipboard tucked against her chest. She looked like she'd like to vanish into an office with no windows and no humans. Sienna, Rita said, thank you for coming down. Sienna nodded. What happened with my keys? Rita's voice remained careful. A duplicate request was initiated through a vendor. We flagged it. We initiated an audit as a precaution. No duplicates will be issued without your ID. Sienna's jaw tightened. So someone tried to get access without me. Rita didn't answer directly, which was its own answer. Sienna looked at me again. You said your wife is moving today. Yes. Sienna's gaze sharpened. If she shows up, I don't want you escalating it. I don't want yelling. I don't want threats. I don't want you on the news. I just want my unit protected. I don't want any of those things either, I said. I want to go home and not feel like I'm living in a prank. Sienna's expression flickered, almost sympathy, then sealed shut. Grant is good at making people feel like they're crazy, she said. Don't let him. I didn't tell her he'd already tried. Rita glanced between us like she was watching two sides of a storm front meet. We'll keep everything in the public areas, she said. Security is aware. And Mr. Mercer? She hesitated, then lowered her voice. The hold stays. Your documentation is noted. But don't call residents directly from our files. That's not allowed. I won't, I said. She texted me. Rita nodded once, as if checking a box in her head. Sienna turned toward the elevator bank, then stopped and looked back at me. I'm sorry, she said, and it sounded real. Not for him, for you. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said the only thing I could. Same, I replied. Sienna walked away. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. She stepped in. The doors closed. That chime stayed in my head like a bell in a dark church. I drove back home and found Mallory in the living room, pacing, on the phone with someone, voice sharp and low. When she saw me, she hung up like the call was a weapon she couldn't afford to be seen holding. You went there, she said, and it wasn't a question. I went downtown, I replied. Mallory's eyes were bright. You're stalking me. You're stalking him. You're harassing his building. I'm verifying what you told me, I said. Mallory's laugh was brittle. He's mine now. You don't get to touch my new life. I looked at her and saw how desperate she was to believe the fantasy, how hard she clung to it. You can have him, I said quietly. But you can't have my name attached to it? Mallory's face twisted. You're trying to control me. No, I said. You're trying to use me. She flinched as if I'd spoken a forbidden truth. I walked into my office and shut the door. Behind it, I listened to her footsteps pace the hallway, and I wondered how many years I'd spent confusing noise for love. Then I opened my laptop and started collecting receipts. That afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open and my hands steady. The house was too quiet. Even the tree lights felt loud. I made a list because lists are what you make when your life becomes a mess you can't mop up. 1. Protect myself. 2. Tell the truth. 3. Don't become the kind of man I'd hate later. Under that, I wrote, paperwork, timing, witnesses. Drew called while I was pulling up our shared phone plan account. You at home? He asked. Yeah. How bad is it? I stared at the call log. Mallory's line, Grant's number, a pattern that looked like a heartbeat, midnight. 2 a.m., 5 a.m., calls that lasted long enough to be real. She's moving today, I said. Or she thinks she is. Drew let out a low whistle. You sure you're okay? I almost laughed. That question always felt like someone asking if you're okay while your house is on fire, but it mattered that he asked. I'm not okay, I said. I'm functional. Need me there? He asked. No, I replied, but I might need a witness later. What's the plan? I clicked through my bank app, not to drain accounts, not to punish her financially, but to see what I was tied to. Auto payments, insurance. A moving company charge pending under my card labeled Hale Luxury Relocation. My throat tightened. Mallory had used my card, not stolen it. She had access. She'd had access for years. Because we were married, because marriage is a key you give someone and assume they won't open doors you didn't know existed. I called the card company and flagged the charge. The rep on the other end asked if it was fraud. I stared at the Christmas cookie crumbs on my table. No, I said. It's unauthorized. Please cancel the authorization moving forward. The rep asked verification questions. I answered. Boring questions. The kind that make revenge legal instead of stupid. When I hung up, my phone buzzed. Mallory's name again. A dozen missed calls now. Texts. Mallory. What did you do? Mallory. Call them back now. Mallory. You're ruining my life. Mallory. This is abuse, abuse? That word tossed like a grenade. She loved that one. It made her the victim and me the monster in a single syllable. I didn't reply. I took pictures of the house. Furniture, electronics, the safe, the jewelry box. Because I'd learned from other men's stories that the first move in divorce is sometimes to pretend the other person stole the world. Then I took pictures of her things. Clothes in her closet, makeup, perfume bottles lined like soldiers. I opened drawers and snapped photos. Not to invade, to document. I printed a simple inventory list and started boxing only her items. I labeled every box with a thick marker. Mallory, closet Mallory, bathroom Mallory, shoes, fragile. It felt insane, like I was preparing a shipment of my marriage to be delivered somewhere else. But the act of doing it steadied me. It made me feel like I had a spine. At 4, there was a knock. I looked through the peephole and saw Mallory with 2 women I recognized from her brunch pictures. One wore a long coat and a face that looked ready to judge. The other held her phone like it was a weapon. Mallory's smile was back, but it was strained. Open up, she called through the door. We're here for my stuff. I opened the door with the chain still on. You're not coming in, I said. Mallory's eyes flashed. Excuse me? I nodded toward the stacked boxes behind me. Your stuff is right there, labeled. You can take it. Her friend with the phone leaned in. You can't keep her from her home. It's my home too, I said calmly. And I'm not stopping her from taking her property. But I'm not letting you march through the house like a parade. Mallory's voice dropped, tight. Nate, stop. This is humiliating. I almost laughed again. She'd announced divorce like a toast, and now she was worried about humiliation. Humiliating is moving your boxes into someone else's life without a lease, I said. Her eyes went wide. You're stalking me. I'm reading paperwork, I said. Mallory tugged the chain like she could rip it off. Let us in, or I'll call the police. Go ahead, I said, and my voice stayed level because I'd already looked up the non-emergency number and the process for a civil standby. Ask them to come supervise you picking up your property. I'll cooperate. Her friend with the phone mouthed something. Mallory's cheeks flushed. Mallory glared at me. You're doing this to punish me? No, I said. I'm doing this to survive you. She stared at the boxes, then at my face, like she was searching for the old me, the man who would soften when she got upset. That man wasn't gone. He was just sitting far back inside me, watching, and he wasn't driving anymore. Mallory grabbed 2 boxes and handed them to her friends, her nails cut into the cardboard. As they walked away, she leaned close, voice low enough that only I could hear. Grant says you're going to regret this. I looked at her, and my throat went dry with something like laughter and something like grief. Tell Grant, I whispered back, that tonight is going to be perfect. Mallory blinked. What? I closed the door gently, the chain clicking like a lock on a cage. My phone buzzed again. Drew's text, Drew. Grant's hosting a holiday charity mixer tonight. Cameras, press, your wife's going. I stared at the words until they stopped being letters and started being a door. Me. Perfect. The charity mixer was on a rooftop with heat lamps and a photo wall that said, Giving is living in big gold letters. It was the kind of place where people wore coats they never zipped because zipping is for poor people and honest people. I went alone. Drew offered to come, but I said no. I didn't need a friend for what I was about to do. I needed nerve. I wore my plain winter jacket and a clean shirt. I didn't dress to impress. I dressed to look like exactly what I was, a husband who'd been lied to and came to stand in the light. The elevator ride up felt like going to a funeral. The doors opened, and I was hit with warm air, expensive perfume, and that laughter people use when they want to sound generous. Mallory was there near the bar, hair perfect again, red dress under her coat. She laughed too loudly at something Grant said, her hand on his arm like she'd claimed him publicly already. Grant wore a suit, not too flashy, just enough to say, I belong here. He held a drink and a smile, and he was surrounded by men who looked like him, clean, confident, made of networking. Mallory spotted me and froze. Then she recovered and smiled, the same Christmas smile, only now it had a sharp edge. "What are you doing here?" she asked when I reached her. "Giving," I said, nodding at the sign. "Apparently it's living." Grant's smile was tight. "Nate, this is inappropriate." "I think cheating is inappropriate," I said. My voice was calm, but I made it loud enough that the people closest to us could hear without it sounding like a shout. Mallory hissed, "Stop." I looked at Grant. "You told my wife she was moving into your place." Grant's eyes flicked around. "This isn't the place." "It's a rooftop," I said. "Seems like a place where people come to be seen." Mallory grabbed my elbow. Her nails dug in. "Nate, please. Please." That word again, used like a tool. I kept my gaze on Grant. "You said your name was on the lease." Grant's smile didn't break. "It is." I nodded. "Then you'll have no problem verifying that with building ops." Grant's eyes sharpened. "You're making a scene." "I'm asking questions," I said. "That's only a scene if the answers are bad." A woman nearby turned slightly, pretending not to listen. A man with a name tag that said board member leaned closer to someone else. The air thickened. Mallory's voice shook with controlled rage. "You're ruining everything." "I'm not the one who built this on lies," I said. Grant stepped in, hand lightly on my shoulder like he was guiding me away. The gesture was polite, but the pressure was hard. He was trying to move me like furniture. I slid out from under his hand and said clearly, "Don't touch me." Grant's smile twitched. "Nate, you need to go." I tilted my head. "Before I ask who Sienna is?" Mallory's face went blank. Not confused. Afraid. Grant's eyes flashed. One bright moment of panic before he covered it. "What did you say?" Mallory whispered. I didn't answer her. I looked past Grant to the elevator doors. They opened. Sienna walked out like she owned the air. She wore a black coat and a look that made the heat lamps feel pointless. She wasn't dressed for a party. She was dressed for a reckoning. She scanned the crowd until her eyes landed on Grant. Then they slid to Mallory's hand on his arm. Then to me. The expression on her face wasn't jealousy. It was calculation, like she was counting how many lies she'd been fed and deciding what to do with the number. "Grant," she said, voice carrying. People turned. Not all of them. Just enough. Grant's smile returned too fast. "Sienna, what are you doing here?" Sienna didn't answer him. She looked at Mallory. "And you are?" Mallory's mouth opened, then closed. She wasn't used to being put on the spot by someone who didn't fear her. Grant jumped in. "This is not the time. We can talk." Sienna held up her phone. "I just got a call from your building," she said, and her voice stayed even. "They're doing a lock audit. They said my keys are missing." Grant's face drained a shade. "That's a misunderstanding." Sienna's eyes stayed on him. "Is it?" She turned to Mallory. "Are you moving into my unit?" Mallory's cheeks flushed. Grant said... Grant cut her off, too quick. "Sienna, please. Not here." Sienna smiled a little, and it was the kind of smile that makes people step back. "Oh," she said. "I think this is exactly the place." She tapped her screen and put the phone to her ear. "Rita? Hi, it's Sienna. Yes, I got your message. I need to know what's going on. Right now." Grant reached toward her like he could take the phone away. Sienna stepped back. Mallory looked at Grant like she'd just realized she wasn't the main character in his story. I leaned closer to Mallory and whispered, "You said his name was on the lease." Mallory's lips trembled. "It is." I shook my head slightly. "No," I said. "It's on you." Sienna's voice grew sharper as she spoke into the phone. People were watching now. Not a crowd, but enough to make Grant's skin tighten. "I'm the primary signer," Sienna said. "So tell me why there's an access request and a move-in scheduled without my approval." Grant's eyes met mine, and in them I saw it. The fear of losing control in public. For a man like him, that was worse than pain. Sienna listened, then her face hardened. "Okay," she said into the phone. "Do it." She ended the call and looked at Grant like he was something she'd just scraped off her boot. "The lock audit starts tonight," she said, "and the hold stays." Grant opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time, he had no smooth line, no charm, just air. Mallory's hand slipped off his arm like she'd been burned, and I stood there under those bright holiday lights and felt the night turn, slow and sure, like a big animal waking up. After the rooftop, I didn't go home right away. I walked 3 blocks in the cold until my ears burned, because if I went back to that quiet house too soon, I would have heard all the memories at once. The laughter, the arguments, the soft lies that had been building like mold behind paint. My phone vibrated nonstop. Mallory. 16 missed calls. Grant. 1 block number attempt. A new message from Sienna. Thank you for staying out of it. Building is auditing. I'm changing locks. Grant is not welcome in my unit tonight. I stared at the message and felt a strange relief for a stranger. Me. Understood. I'm sorry this landed on you. Sienna. It landed because he threw it. That line was a knife. Simple. Accurate. I finally went home and found Mallory sitting on the couch with her coat still on, like she was afraid the house would swallow her if she took it off. The tree lights blinked behind her, a cheap disco for a dying marriage. She looked up when I entered. Her eyes were swollen. I can't believe you did that, she said. Did what? I asked, hanging my coat. You humiliated me, she snapped. In front of everyone. You're supposed to be my husband. I laughed, and it surprised both of us. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was a laugh that comes out when your brain realizes the world is a joke and you're the punchline. I was your husband this morning, I said. Then you announced I wasn't. Mallory stood fast, anger flaring. You're acting like I did something unforgivable. No, I said. You just destroyed the version of me that trusted you. Her mouth opened, and for a second she looked like she might say something honest. Instead, she said, You're enjoying this. I shook my head. No, I'm finally seeing you. Mallory's face twisted. Grant says you're unstable. I stared at her. Grant says whatever keeps him clean, I said. He lied to you too. Mallory's eyes flashed. He didn't. His name isn't on the lease, I said quietly. Mallory froze. Stop. It isn't, I repeated. And the primary signer is a woman named Sienna. Mallory's breathing grew shallow. You're making that up. I'm not, I said. And you know I'm not, because if you believed you were moving into his place, you'd be packing right now instead of sitting here asking for my reaction. Mallory's hands trembled. He told me. I know what he told you, I said. I heard him. Mallory's voice broke. Then what am I supposed to do? The question came out raw. It almost sounded like the Mallory I married. Almost. I could have softened then. I could have offered comfort. I could have been the man she expected, the man who tried to save a sinking boat while she drilled new holes. Instead, I said, Tell the truth. Mallory laughed, bitter and scared. To who? To yourself, I said. She stared at me like I'd slapped her with philosophy. I walked past her and into my office again, because if I stayed in the room with her pain, I might confuse it with remorse. My phone buzzed with a new voicemail notification. Janice. This is Janice Hall. I can speak tomorrow at 9 a.m. If you're serious, be on time and bring documents. I listened to the voicemail twice. Then I turned off the tree lights. The living room went dark, and for the first time all day, I could breathe. The next morning, the temperature dropped like the city had made up its mind to punish everyone equally. The sky was the color of dirty cotton. Mallory called me at 8. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice was different now. Not sweet, not victorious, tight with panic. Nate, she said, we need to talk. Please, this is getting out of hand. Out of hand. Like she hadn't been the one who tossed the match. At 10, I got a text from Rita. Rita. Lock audit initiated. Security will be present. If your wife arrives with movers, they will be turned away. Also, please call me. I called. Mr. Mercer, Rita said, this is turning into a situation. I know, I said. Rita's tone stayed professional. Sienna requested immediate fob deactivation for any duplicates. That's within her rights. We're also updating the access list. Mr. Hale is not authorized to add residents. I pictured Grant's face last night, the cracks, the way he'd tried to plug them with charm. Thanks, I said. Don't thank me, Rita replied again. I'm doing my job. I drove downtown anyway because if Mallory showed up with a truck, I wanted to see it with my own eyes. Not for revenge, for closure, for the simple truth of watching a fantasy gone. The building's loading dock was a concrete tunnel with yellow safety lines and a sign that said, No unauthorized move-ins. 2 security guards stood by the entrance with clipboards, like bouncers for cardboard. Rita stood near the service door, hair tighter than yesterday, a stack of paperwork in her hand. She looked like a woman bracing for impact. Grant arrived first. He wore a coat and a smile, but the smile was thin. He walked straight toward Rita like he owned her time. Rita, he said, too friendly. Let's straighten this out. Rita didn't move. Mr. Hale, she said, you are not the primary signer. I live here, Grant snapped. You are an approved occupant, Rita corrected. That's not the same as authority. Grant's jaw clenched. Sienna is overreacting. Rita's eyes were flat. Sienna is enforcing her lease. Grant took a breath, forced his smile back. Fine. How do we fix it? Rita flipped her clipboard. By the primary signer coming in, verifying access, and approving any move-in appointment. That's it. Grant glanced around and spotted me. His smile vanished. Oh, he said. You. Me? I replied. Grant took a step toward me, anger pushing through his polish. You think you won? You think you did something impressive? I shrugged. I made a phone call. Grant's nostrils flared. You're ruining people's lives. I almost laughed. You were doing that fine without me. A truck turned into the loading dock, its engine loud in the tunnel. The side read, Hale Luxury Relocation in bold letters. Mallory's truck. The truck stopped. 2 movers hopped out wearing beanies and work gloves. They looked tired. They looked like men who didn't care about drama, only schedules. Mallory stepped out of the passenger side wearing a long coat and sunglasses, as if hiding her face could hide the truth. She marched toward Rita. Hi, she said, forcing cheer. We're here for the move-in. Unit 1907? Rita didn't smile. Ma'am, there is no move-in appointment approved. Mallory's head snapped. Yes, there is. Grant arranged it. Grant stepped forward quickly. It's fine, he said. Let them unload. We'll sort the paperwork after. Rita shook her head. No appointment. No COI. There is also an administrative hold pending verification. Mallory's voice rose. This is ridiculous. One of the movers held up a folder. We have insurance, he said. But we need the building's move-in confirmation. If they won't let us unload, we can't. Company policy. Company policy. That phrase is a hammer when you need nails. Mallory turned on Grant. Fix it. Grant's face tightened. Rita, be reasonable. Rita's expression didn't change. I am being reasonable. I'm following the lease. Mallory slammed her hand on the clipboard in Rita's hand. Paper fluttered like startled birds. Rita stepped back, eyes narrowing. Do not touch me, she said, calm but steel. Mallory's sunglasses slipped down her nose. Her eyes were bright with rage and something else, fear. Let me in, she said. Rita's voice went colder. Ma'am, your name is not on anything here. You have no authorized access. Mallory stared as if Rita had slapped her. Grant opened his mouth, then closed it, like the words couldn't find a safe place to land. The movers shifted their weight, watching, waiting. A small crowd of residents gathered at a distance, their faces curious, their phones out, because people love a disaster as long as it's not theirs. Mallory hissed, Nate did this. Grant snapped his head toward me. You did this. I held up my hands. I asked questions. Mallory's voice broke. Grant, tell them. Tell them I live here. Grant's eyes flicked to Sienna's unit number on Rita's clipboard. Then away. Sienna didn't show up. She didn't need to. The lease was her presence. The policy was her voice. Rita leaned closer to me and spoke quietly, so Mallory and Grant couldn't hear the words, but could see the intimacy of it, which mattered just as much. Mr. Mercer, she said, there's something else. I met her gaze. What? Rita's eyes held mine. Your wife's name isn't on anything here, she said softly. Then she added lower. But yours is on something else I didn't expect. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? I whispered. Rita's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her mouth tightened. I'll explain, she said. But not here. Mallory screamed at the movers. Unload the boxes. The mover shook his head. Ma'am, we can't. If the building won't accept, we can't. We'll have to return to storage. Mallory looked around, trapped between concrete walls and her own choices. And in that cold tunnel, under those fluorescent lights, her victory turned into a pile of boxes that no one wanted. Rita walked away to take a call. Grant stood still, jaw clenched, eyes hard. Mallory looked at me like I'd stolen her future. I looked back and thought, you gave it away. Rita called me an hour later. I was sitting in my car outside a storage facility on the edge of town, watching snow drift into corners like it was trying to hide. Mr. Mercer, Rita said, I can't email you anything about another tenant, but I can tell you what I meant. Tell me, I said. There's a moving services agreement attached to your name, she said. Not the building lease, the vendor agreement, the one that's used when residents move in through a concierge service. It uses your payment method as the guarantor. That's why your documentation triggered our system. My throat went dry. My payment method? Rita's voice stayed neutral. Yes, it's flagged. It looks like it was set up using your information. I stared at the gray sky. Mallory did that. I can't say who did it, Rita replied. I can only say the record exists. You should contact your bank and the vendor to remove yourself. I already did, I said. I canceled authorization this morning. Rita paused. Then that explains why the movers were tense. They said the payment failed. Mallory had assumed I would pay. She had assumed I'd be a silent wallet with a heartbeat. Thank you, I said. Rita's reply was almost gentle. Good luck, Mr. Mercer. After the call, I sat there and listened to my car engine tick. I felt something inside me harden, not into cruelty, but into exactness, a cold kind of clarity. Drew pulled into the lot 5 minutes later. He stepped out and rubbed his hands together, breath puffing. You sure you want me here? He asked, walking to my window. I want a witness, I said, and I want someone to remind me I'm still human. Drew's eyes softened. Okay. Mallory arrived in a rideshare, not in Grant's car. That detail alone was a dagger. She climbed out with her coat unbuttoned and her hair messy for the first time in years. The perfect mask had slipped. She marched toward me, eyes burning. What did you do? She demanded. I got out of the car and closed the door gently. I canceled the moving agreement you put in my name. Mallory froze. I didn't. Don't, I said, and my voice was quiet but sharp. Don't lie right now. You used my info. You assumed I'd pay. Mallory's eyes flashed. We're married. We were, I corrected. And even if we still were, you don't get to spend my money to move into another man's life. She laughed, hysterical and bitter. You're acting like I cheated. I stared at her. You did. Her face twisted. You drove me to it. There it was. The classic line. The excuse wrapped in blame, like she could gift me her guilt and make me carry it. Drew stepped closer, staying quiet. A witness, a human boundary. Mallory pointed at him. Is he your little bodyguard now? No, I said. He's here so you don't later claim I threatened you. Mallory's mouth opened, then she snapped it shut like she'd bitten her tongue. A car pulled in behind her. Grant's car, black, clean, quiet. Grant stepped out, coat collar up, face set. He walked like he was entering a board meeting, not a mess he'd made. Mallory turned toward him like a drowning person reaching for air. Grant, tell him to stop. Grant's gaze flicked to me, then to Drew, then back. He calculated. I told you this would be messy, Grant said to Mallory, and his tone had no love in it. It had annoyance. Mallory's face fell. What? Grant's jaw tightened. You said he'd just accept it. Mallory's eyes widened. You promised me. Grant looked at me. You're making this worse than it needs to be. I took out my phone and held it up. For my safety, I'm recording, I said clearly. Public lot. Witness present. Grant's eyes narrowed. Stop. Then don't say anything you wouldn't want replayed, I replied. Grant's face hardened. Fine. Here's the truth. I told her she could move in. I told her it would be handled. There it was. The admission. Not a confession of a crime. A confession of a lie. Mallory stared at him. You told me your name was on the lease. Grant's eyes slid away. It was complicated. Mallory's voice rose, cracking. You lied to me. Grant's lips curled. You lied to him. Mallory spun back to me. Nate, I held up a hand. I don't want your speech, I said. Grant stepped closer, anger leaking. You got what you wanted. She's embarrassed. I'm inconvenienced. Congratulations. Inconvenienced, I repeated. You're a poet. Grant's eyes flashed. You think you can win by playing bureaucrat? I smiled slightly. Not happy, not proud. Just a small expression that said I'd stop seeking approval. I'm not trying to win, I said. I'm trying to end. Mallory's voice came out like a spit. You think this hurts me? I already chose him. I looked at her. I could see the trembling behind her anger, the panic behind her pride. Then choose him, I said quietly, in front of everyone he lied to. Mallory blinked. What are you talking about? I didn't answer her. I looked at Grant. You like parties, right? I asked. Grant's eyes narrowed. What did you do? I pulled up my phone and sent one message. To Sienna. It was short. No drama. Just truth. Me. He told my wife she could move into your unit today. Building turned movers away. If you want details, I can share what he admitted on recording. I hit send. The screen flashed. Delivered. Mallory stared at my phone like it was a gun. Grant's face went white. Drew exhaled softly beside me, and the cold air in that parking lot felt suddenly electric, like a storm was moving in. Janice Hall's office smelled like old coffee and paper that had survived other people's disasters. She was in her late 50s with gray hair cut short and eyes that didn't soften for anyone. The kind of woman who could say, "I'm sorry," and make it sound like a legal disclaimer. "You're early," she said when I walked in at 8:53. "I didn't want to be late to my own life," I replied. Janice didn't laugh. She pointed at a chair. "Sit." I sat. Drew waited outside in the hallway with his phone and his patience. Janice flipped open a yellow legal pad. "Start from the beginning," she said. I did, but I kept it clean. I gave dates, times, exact words when I remembered them. The 2 questions I asked Mallory, the phone call, Rita's hold, the rooftop, the boxes trapped in the loading dock, the vendor agreement tied to my name. I felt like I began once. Janice held up a finger. "Facts first, feelings later." I swallowed and kept going. When I finished, Janice tapped her pen on the pad. "You're doing the right things," she said. "Documenting. Not threatening, not damaging property, staying in public when tempers flare." "Does that matter?" I asked. "It matters if this ends up in court," she replied. "And it matters if she claims you're the aggressor. People like your wife—" She paused, then corrected herself, professional as a scalpel. "People in high conflict separations often rewrite history. You don't have to argue with the rewrite. You just have to have a record." I nodded. Janice continued, "Here's what you do today. Separate finances properly. Not to punish, to protect. You can remove yourself from shared authorizations, freeze new charges on cards in your name, open a separate account for your paycheck, and stop paying for services that are now supporting her affair." "Can she call that financial abuse?" I asked. Janice's eyes narrowed. "She can call a toaster a weapon if she wants," she said. "The question is whether a judge would agree. Protection is not punishment. We'll document your intent." I stared at it and felt something settle in my chest. Not relief, structure. Janice leaned back. "Now," she said, "tell me about the lover." "Grant Hale," I replied. "He's polished. Likes being seen." Janice nodded, like that had a definition in her head. "Men like that don't like paper," she said. "Paper makes them accountable." I thought of Grant's face in the lobby when Rita said he wasn't the signer. I thought of the crack. Janice's gaze sharpened. "Did he threaten you?" "He said he'd make me regret it," I admitted. "Document it," Janice said immediately. "Date, time, location, witness, exact wording. And if he contacts you again through third parties, forward it to me." I nodded. Janice stood, ending the meeting the way she began it, without ceremony. "I'll draft separation terms," she said. "You'll deliver them through proper channels, no dramatic handoffs, no surprises that look like revenge, and if she tries to provoke you, you walk away." I stood too. "That's it?" I asked. Janice looked at me like I was asking for a magic spell. "That's it," she said. "You don't win this by being louder. You win it by being consistent." Outside her office, Drew pushed off the hallway wall. "How'd it go?" he asked. I held up the checklist. "I got a manual," I said. Drew's mouth twitched. "For what?" "For not getting destroyed," I replied. 2 days later, Grant asked me to meet him to talk. He didn't text it. He had someone from his office email me through a generic address. Like even his requests had assistance. The location was a cafe in the lobby of a glass office building near downtown. The kind of lobby where everything is marble and money and the air feels filtered. I didn't want to go, but I went anyway. Not because I feared him, because I wanted to see the next lie before it formed. Drew came again. He sat at a table nearby with a coffee and a newspaper he didn't read. He looked like a normal guy. That was the point. Grant arrived 10 minutes late, as if being late made him important. Mallory wasn't with him. That was the second point. Grant sat across from me and folded his hands. "I'm going to be direct," he said. "I'd appreciate that," I replied. Grant's eyes were tired now. Not from lack of sleep, from losing control. "This situation has gotten public," he said. I nodded. "That's what happens when you lie in front of people." Grant's jaw flexed. "Sienna is making noise." Noise? Like a woman demanding the truth was static. "She should," I said. "It's her lease." Grant leaned forward. "You don't understand the consequences." I tilted my head. "Explain them." Grant hesitated, then said, "I'm up for partner track. There are clauses, reputation, conduct. He said it like he'd swallowed glass, like the words tasted cheap coming from him. I let the silence stretch. In that silence, I heard the building's HVAC hum and the faint holiday music still playing somewhere, because Christmas doesn't care what you do to each other. So, I said slowly, your life is held together by the opinion of people you pretend not to need. Grant's eyes hardened. Don't be smug. I'm not smug, I said. I'm tired. Grant's gaze flicked toward Drew, then back. Is he here because you're afraid I'll hit you? No, I said. He's here because I'm afraid you'll lie. Grant's lips pressed together. Mallory is unstable. She's making this worse. I laughed once, short and humorless. You told her to leave her husband on Christmas and move into a place that wasn't yours. Grant's face flushed. She wanted it. She wanted a story where she wins, I said. You sold her that story because it fed your ego. Grant's eyes narrowed. You think you're some moral hero? No, I said. I'm the guy who signed papers because he believed his wife. Grant sat back and took a breath. What do you want, Nate? I looked at him. Really looked. The expensive suit. The controlled posture. The fear hiding behind it like a child behind curtains. I want my life back, I said, and I want you to stop contacting me. Grant's jaw clenched. You're not going to ruin me. I smiled slightly. I'm not ruining you. You're doing that. A shadow fell over our table. Mallory stood there. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, emotionally, like a balloon losing air. Nate, she said, voice thin, we need to talk. Grant's eyes flashed with annoyance. Mallory, not now. Mallory ignored him. Please, she said to me, this is spiraling. Because you lit it, I said. Mallory's eyes filled with sudden tears, but they didn't fall. They hovered, staged. I made a mistake, she whispered. I was angry. I felt trapped. There it was again, the attempt to rewrite. Grant stood abruptly. This is pointless, he snapped. I'm done. Mallory grabbed his sleeve. Grant yanked his arm free. Don't touch me. Mallory froze, stunned by the rejection. Grant turned to me, eyes sharp. If you keep pushing, I'll make you regret it, he said. The words had teeth, not a threat of violence, a threat of influence. I leaned forward and spoke quietly. Too late, I said. You already did. Grant's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It meant I'd already spoken to a lawyer. It meant I'd already separated finances properly. It meant I'd already documented everything. It meant I'd already stopped treating the truth like a fragile thing that needed to be protected. Mallory stepped closer, voice trembling. Nate, please, I'll come home. We can fix it. I stared at her and saw the only thing she truly wanted. The old version of me. The one who would let her burn him and then apologize for the smoke. No, I said. Mallory's face twisted. You're going to ruin me just to feel powerful. I stood. The chair scraped lightly on marble. Heads turned. I'm not ruining you, I said, loud enough that the nearby tables heard. I'm letting you live the choices you made in public. Mallory reached toward my arm, desperate. A security guard stepped between us. Not aggressive, just present. Like a line. Ma'am, he said politely. You need to keep your distance. Mallory's face flushed. She looked around and realized people were watching. She hated being watched when she wasn't controlling the angle. She backed up, breathing hard. Grant walked away fast, jaw tight. He didn't look back. He was already calculating damage control. Mallory stood alone in the lobby like a woman who'd walked onto a stage and forgotten her lines. I walked past her toward the exit. Behind me, she called my name once. Not angry, not sweet, just scared. Nate. I didn't turn. Outside, the air slapped my face cold and clean. Drew caught up to me. You okay? He asked again. I nodded. I'm not okay, I said. But I'm done. And somewhere inside that glass building, the rumor engine was already turning, grinding Grant's perfect image into dust. The day after the cafe meeting, my world shrank to a few essential things. My job, my lawyer, and the thin line between truth and trouble. Grant didn't call me directly again. He wasn't that stupid. Instead, he used a safer weapon. Other people. A mutual acquaintance from an industry event emailed me. Friendly subject line. Hey man, crazy times. Inside, a soft warning disguised as concern. He wrote that Grant was well-connected, that it might be smart to let things cool off, that reputations get messy, and you don't want to be the guy who can't let go. I read it twice and felt my stomach turn. That's what men like Grant do. They don't threaten you with fists. They threaten you with social oxygen, with opportunities, with whispers. They make you feel like the problem for reacting to what they did. I forwarded the email to Janice. Janice replied with 3 words, "Do not respond." Then she called me. "Are you safe?" she asked. "I'm safe," I said. "Just irritated." "Good," she replied. "Irritation is useful. Panic isn't." I sat in my car outside my office building and watched coworkers walk in carrying coffee, laughing, living normal lives. For a second, I hated them, not because they'd done anything, but because normal looked like a luxury. Janice continued, "Do you have any evidence of direct threats?" "He said he'd make me regret it," I said, but it was vague. "Document it," she said. "Date, time, location, witnesses. Vague threats still matter if there's a pattern." I exhaled. I'm tired of patterns. "You married a pattern," Janice said bluntly. "Now you're divorcing it." After work, I went home and found Mallory sitting at the kitchen table with an untouched bowl of cereal. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were rimmed red. Her phone sat face down. She looked up when I entered like she'd been waiting. "I need to talk," she said quietly. I didn't take off my coat yet. "Talk," Mallory swallowed. He's acting weird." I kept my face neutral. Grant acts weird when he's cornered. Mallory's voice shook. He told me to stop contacting him. I felt a pulse of satisfaction and hated myself for feeling it. Not because I wanted her hurt, because I wanted her awake. "And?" I asked. Mallory stared at her hands. And I realized I don't know where I'm supposed to go. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't remorse. It was logistical panic. The kind of panic she dismissed in me as overthinking. I said nothing. Mallory's eyes lifted. "Nate, I didn't think you'd fight back." There it was. The admission, small and ugly and honest. "You didn't think I could?" I corrected. Mallory flinched. I walked to the fridge and poured a glass of water. My hands were steady. I watched the water fill the cup like time filling a space. Mallory's voice broke. "He told me if I keep talking, he'll blame everything on me. He said he'll say I'm crazy. He said I'm disposable." Disposable? She'd treated me like that. Now she was tasting it. I took a sip of water and kept my voice flat. "He's afraid," I said. "People like him are only brave when they're admired." Mallory's eyes filled. "What do I do?" I looked at her for a long time. The woman I loved. The woman who'd smiled and burned my life. "Pack the rest of your things," I said. "Sign the separation terms. Tell the truth when you're asked. And stop expecting me to save you from your own choices." Mallory wiped her cheek quickly, as if embarrassed by tears. "He's going to ruin me," I shrugged. "He's going to try." Mallory's voice grew small. "And you?" I met her gaze. "I'm going to protect myself," I said. "That's all." Later that night, my phone buzzed with a message from Owen. "Owen. FYI, Hale is in the garage again. He's angry. Rita says you might need to pick up an envelope. Be careful." I stared at the message, then at the dark window reflecting my face back at me. Grant wanted one last scene, one last attempt to prove he could still push the world around. And I knew exactly where the final fight would happen. Under fluorescent lights, surrounded by cameras, with the gate arm ready to drop like a guillotine that didn't need a body. Grant picked the wrong day to pretend he still had power. It was night, the kind of night where the streetlights look like they're hovering over wet pavement. I drove to the building because Rita had asked me to retrieve something, an envelope left with security that contained copies of the vendor agreement showing my name attached. Evidence I needed to protect myself. I didn't want to see Mallory. I didn't want to see Grant. But the city has a way of stacking people in the same small corners when secrets are involved. The garage was quieter at night. The concrete held cold. Each footstep echoed like a question. Owen, one of the security guards, met me near the desk. He was broad-shouldered, polite, and looked tired of rich people. "Mr. Mercer?" he asked. "That's me." Owen handed me an envelope. "Rita asked me to give you this," he said. And she said, "Be careful." "Why?" I asked. Owen's gaze flicked toward the ramp. "Mr. Hale is here," he said quietly. "He's not calm." "Of course." I tucked the envelope into my coat and started toward the exit. Grant's voice echoed from behind a pillar. "Nate." I stopped. I didn't turn yet. I listened to the sound of his shoes, the pace, fast, angry. When I turned, Grant was walking toward me with Mallory behind him, her face tight with shame and rage tangled together. Grant's smile was gone. The mask was off. What was left was a man who couldn't stand losing. "You don't know when to quit," he said. I kept my voice steady. "I'm here for paperwork." Grant laughed. "Paperwork. That's your whole personality, isn't it?" "Better than lies," I said. Mallory stepped closer, eyes flashing. "Stop it. Both of you." Grant ignored her. "You sent messages," he said to me. "You poisoned people." I told the truth," I replied. Grant's jaw clenched. "You recorded me." "I announced it," I said, "in public." Grant's eyes went hard. "You think that protects you?" Owen's footsteps sounded behind me. He'd moved closer, watching. I nodded toward him. "It helps." Grant's lips curled. "This is pathetic." Mallory's voice cracked. "Grant, please, let's go." Grant snapped his head at her. "Don't tell me what to do." Mallory flinched like he'd slapped her with words. Grant stepped toward me, too close, breath sharp. "You're going to lose everything," he said. I met his gaze. "I already lost my marriage," I said. "The rest is just stuff." Grant's nostrils flared. His hand twitched like he wanted to grab my phone, the envelope, anything. I spoke clearly, loud enough for the camera and for Owen. "Grant, don't touch me." Grant's jaw flexed. "Or what?" I stepped closer, not into his space to fight, but into his space to make him feel the thing he'd made other people feel. Uncertainty. "I'm done being quiet," I said. Grant's eyes widened just a fraction. That line hit him harder than any insult. Behind him, the garage gate arm lowered with a mechanical whir. Grant turned his head sharply. "What the hell?" Owen spoke, calm. "Exit is temporarily disabled," he said. "Safety protocol. There's an active dispute in the garage." Grant spun on him. "You can't do that." Owen's expression didn't change. "We can," he said. "And we are." Grant's car sat behind the lowered arm like a trapped animal. Residents nearby paused. One woman with grocery bags stared. A man in a beanie lifted his phone, recording. The echo of heels clicked as someone walked away fast. Grant looked around and realized he was on display. Mallory's face went pale. "Grant," she whispered. Grant turned on her. "This is your fault," he hissed. Mallory's eyes widened. "My fault?" "You brought him into this," Grant snapped. Mallory's mouth opened, then closed. Her pride tried to stand up. It failed. She looked at me, then back at Grant, and something in her expression shifted. Something like realization, like she'd finally seen him without the shine. Grant's voice rose. "You thought you'd just leave him and he'd sit quietly? You thought you could move in and play house? That's not how this works." Mallory's hands shook. "You promised me." Grant's laugh was cruel. "I promised you what you wanted to hear." Mallory stared at him like he'd punched a hole through her chest. I didn't feel joy in that moment. I felt something colder, a sense of inevitability, like watching ice crack. You don't cheer, you just listen. Mallory's voice came out small. "So, what am I to you?" Grant's face hardened. "A problem?" he said. Mallory's eyes filled with tears now, real ones, and they rolled down her cheeks in the fluorescent light. She turned to me, and I expected another plea, another attempt to climb back into the life she'd burned. Instead, she whispered, "I moved for this." Grant barked a laugh. "Don't be dramatic." Mallory's gaze sharpened, anger returning, but it was aimed at him now. "You're the dramatic one," she snapped. "You can't stand being seen for what you are." Grant's face twisted. "Shut up." Owen stepped forward. "Sir," he said calmly, "you need to lower your voice." Grant rounded on him. "Do you know who I am?" Owen's eyes were flat. "A man in a parking garage," he said. "That's all I see." A few residents laughed quietly. Not loud, not cruel, just enough. Grant's face flushed with humiliation. I leaned in slightly and said to Grant, quiet but clear, "This is what you moved her for." Grant's eyes flashed murder without violence. Pure hatred. He lunged, not to hit me, but to grab the envelope in my coat pocket. Owen stepped between us instantly, hands up, stopping Grant's forward motion without touching him hard. "Back up," Owen said. Grant froze, breathing hard, then stepped back, palms raised like he was the victim. "Unbelievable," he spat. Mallory looked at Grant, then at the lowered gate arm, then at the residents filming. Her shoulders sagged. For the first time since Christmas, she looked like a person who understood consequences. And in that cold, concrete cave, Grant Hale's kingdom became a cage. The final day came fast because lies don't age well. They rot quick. My lawyer, an older woman named Janice, who didn't smile much, had drawn up the initial separation terms. No theatrics. Just the clean division of property, temporary boundaries, and a note about documentation. The kind of paperwork that isn't romantic but keeps you alive. Mallory agreed to meet at the building's loading dock to retrieve her last boxes because Grant had nowhere to put them. Sienna had kicked him out of her unit, quietly and efficiently, like turning off a light. I didn't go there to gloat. I went because I wanted the last moment to be real, not imagined. The night was bitter. The wind cut around the corners of the building. The loading dock lights clicked on, bright and cold, revealing a moving truck idling with its hazards on. Rita stood near the service door again, clipboard in hand. She looked exhausted. Not because of me, because of humans. Owen was there too, standing by like a quiet wall. Mallory arrived wearing jeans and a hoodie under her coat. No red dress, no victory outfit. Her hair was tied back. Her face looked older, like something had eaten the gloss off it. Grant arrived late. Of course. He walked down the ramp like he was still important, but now he looked like a man wearing a suit to a funeral he caused. Rita spoke first. "Ms. Mercer," she said, "you are not authorized for access. This is a public loading area. You will collect your items and leave. Mr. Hale, you are to remain in the garage until the audit is complete." Grant opened his mouth. Rita's eyes narrowed. He shut it. Mallory looked at the truck. The boxes inside were stacked neatly, labeled with my handwriting. She swallowed. "This is insane," she said quietly. Not angry now, just tired. "It's reality," I replied. Mallory's eyes flicked to me. "You always wanted to be right," she whispered. I almost smiled at that. She'd spent years calling my caution a flaw. Now she was begging for it. "I wanted to be loved," I said. Mallory flinched. Grant scoffed. "Can we hurry this up?" Owen's gaze pinned him. "No," he said simply. The movers started sliding boxes toward the edge of the truck, careful. The wind caught loose tape ends and made them flap like small flags. Mallory stepped forward and grabbed a box. Her fingers shook. The label read, "Mallory, important." She looked at it, then at me. "What's in this?" she asked. "Your choices," I said before I could stop myself. Mallory's jaw clenched. "You're enjoying this." I shook my head. "No," I said. "I'm ending it." Grant stepped forward, trying to regain control. "Mallory, stop whining. Take your boxes. We'll deal with it." Mallory turned to him sharply. "Don't tell me what to do," she snapped. Grant froze, eyes flashing. "Excuse me?" Mallory's voice rose, and it wasn't a performance now. It was a crack in a dam. "You told me I was safe," she said. "You told me I was moving into your life. And it was never your life. It was hers. It was always hers." Grant's mouth tightened. Sienna overreacted. Mallory laughed, harsh. "No," she said. "You underreacted to everything. You felt nothing. You just wanted to win?" Grant's eyes narrowed. "You're embarrassing yourself again." Mallory's eyes burned. "I learned from you." The wind howled through the dock like it wanted to drown us out. Rita cleared her throat. "I need to confirm," she said to me quietly, "that you're aware your name has been removed from the vendor agreement and any payment methods associated with the file." "I'm aware," I said. "Thank you." Rita nodded. "Access remains revoked. Holds remain in place. Appointment canceled." Paperwork reality. The cold machinery of rules. It didn't care who cried. Grant stepped toward the truck and shoved at a stack of boxes like he could move the night itself. Boxes slid, tape tore. One box tipped and burst, spilling Mallory's framed photos onto the dock floor. Pictures of vacations, smiles, moments that now looked like advertisements for a product that didn't work. Mallory gasped and dropped to her knees, grabbing frames with shaking hands. Grant cursed under his breath. "For God's sake!" Owen moved forward. "Step back," he ordered. Grant glared. "This is my problem." Owen's voice stayed calm. "No," he said. "This is a safety issue." Grant took another step, furious. Owen lifted a hand, and the security lights snapped brighter, harsh. The dock gate mechanism rumbled above us. Rita spoke loudly now, voice carrying. "Mr. Hale, you are to leave the loading area." Grant looked at Mallory, then at me, then at the residents watching from the garage ramp. Phones out, eyes wide. The scene he'd tried to avoid had found him anyway. Mallory stood, clutching a frame to her chest, tears freezing on her cheeks. She looked at me, and in her eyes I saw the last attempt forming, the last plea, the last manipulation. "Nate," she whispered, "please, don't do this. We can fix it. I'll come home. I stepped onto the dock and picked up one box that hadn't fallen. The same one she'd held. Mallory. Important. I carried it to her and set it down in front of her like a judge's gavel. Cardboard thudded softly on concrete. Mallory stared at it. Grant stared at me. Rita watched, face unreadable. I looked at Mallory, then Grant, and said the only truth left that felt clean. "You smiled because you thought you'd won. You just didn't know who was holding the keys." The dock gate began to lower, slow and heavy, sealing the loading area like a final sentence. The truck's engine rose. The movers climbed in. Tires rolled. Mallory stood there with boxes and broken frames and nowhere to go. Grant stood behind the gate arm with his kingdom collapsing into echoes. I turned and walked away without looking back.